There are a lot of people out of work right now. The president said that he thinks people on the receiving end of the shutdown should make adjustments. So what specifically do you think these folks should do to adjust? Should people skip utility bills, these employees? Should they buy fewer groceries? What are the adjustments you'd recommend?
Well, I think the president is very sensitive and very grateful for all the public servants across this government who make sacrifices every day to serve the American people, and especially the 800,000 federal workers that will be impacted by this partial government shutdown come the end of this week. I'm proud to say that the president has directed, unlike past administrations, this president has directed our administration to mitigate the impact of the shutdown. We found a way to keep the parks open and maintained for the American people. We also ensured yesterday that tax refunds will go out as planned.
People still won't get checks. So.
But here's the thing, Hallie, there's no reason why those paychecks shouldn't go out on schedule on Friday. We just need the Democrats to come to the table. As the American people saw from the first day of this partial government shutdown, the president had me and our team on Capitol Hill negotiating and offering solutions to not just reopen the government, but to address the crisis on our southern border. Democrats broke off negotiations, and quite frankly, what they told us this weekend in this very office, as I met with senior staff of Leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi, was that they would not even begin negotiations until we agreed to reopen the government. That's not what the American people expect. If we will sit down this week, as the president's invited the leadership back here to the White House, we could resolve these issues in a matter of hours, as the president said. The American people expect us to do our work.
Let me ask you about your underlying argument for being able to build this barrier and for this shutdown, really. Documents provided by this administration to Congress that NBC News has obtained show that on the southern border, 6 immigrants in a 6-month time period were encountered by U.S. officials who were trying to enter the country. But on the northern border, the number was far, far higher, 6 times as many. Yet you're not talking about a wall or a barrier with Canada. What's the difference?
Well, the difference is that we're now seeing 60,000 people a month attempt to come into our country illegally on the southern border. And they're predominantly families and unaccompanied children for the first time ever.
Will a wall stop them?
With regard to terrorists, we've seen more than 4,000 known or suspected terrorists attempt to come into our country through various means, but on the southern border...
But let me stop you on that number, because it is a misleading claim that's been fact-checked, as I believe you're aware, because that number is for all ports of entry, including airports.
Well, and that's what I was saying. It is from all ports of entry. But on the southern border, last year alone, 3,000 special interest aliens were apprehended trying to come into our country. Those are individuals whose travel patterns or backgrounds represent the need for additional screening and represent a potential security threat to the United States of America. They're 2 different categories, and they often get conflated. But remember also that we apprehended 17,000 people with criminal records at attempting to come into this country on the southern border last year alone. But all of this, is in the public domain. The president will speak about this crisis on our southern border. But when you have even the Washington Post saying that we have a bona fide emergency on our southern border over this weekend, it's time for Congress to act. It's time for the Democrats in Congress to come to the table and start negotiating, not just to end this partial government shutdown, but to address what is a genuine humanitarian and security crisis on our southern border.
We're just about out of time. Before I let you go, which former presidents told President Trump, as he said, that he should have built a wall? All their representatives have denied that that was the case.
Well, I know the president has said that that was his impression from previous administrations, previous presidents. I know I've seen clips of previous presidents talking about the importance of border security, the importance of addressing the issue of illegal immigration.
That's different from telling the president, though, right?
But look, honestly, the American people want us to address this issue. It is a matter of national security. It is a matter of addressing human trafficking, the flow of narcotics into our country. I have to tell you, President Trump is resolved, not just to build a wall, but to provide the kind of resources and reforms in our law that will stem the tide of illegal immigration, human trafficking, narcotics that are besetting not only our southern border, but our entire country. And the time is now for the Democrats to come back to the table, to sit down, to negotiate in good faith, and we can end this partial government shutdown, and more importantly, we can come together and put the interests of the American people first by addressing this humanitarian and security crisis at our border.
Mr. Vice President, thank you, sir. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Hallie.
Thank you.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.